Charles Bronson's life story reads like a blueprint for the rugged screen persona that made him famous. Born Charles Dennis Bukinski in 1921 to Lithuanian immigrant parents in Pennsylvania, he grew up in a household defined by hardship. One of 15 children, Bronson learned early what survival meant. When his father died, he was forced into coal mines at just 10 years old, laboring in darkness under dangerous conditions to help support his family. Those years left permanent physical and emotional marks, shaping his quiet intensity and no-nonsense worldview. During World War II, he served as a tail gunner in the U.S. Army Air Forces, flying combat missions in the Pacific and earning a Purple Heart. After the war, he used the GI Bill to study art before turning to acting. Hollywood didn't soften him. Instead, Bronson carried his past with him, letting experience, not polish, define his presence. Rising slowly in a suspicious industry, Bronson's early Hollywood years were marked by patience rather than instant success. He entered the film industry in the 1950s through minor roles, often uncredited, playing soldiers, henchmen, or background figures. At the height of Cold War paranoia, his Eastern European surname raised suspicion in casting offices, prompting him to adopt the more American-sounding name Charles Bronson. This change wasn't vanity, but survival in an industry shaped by fear and conformity. His breakthrough came through ensemble roles in films like The Magnificent Seven and The Great Escape, where his stoic presence stood out despite limited dialogue. Bronson brought something different to the screen: restraint. His characters felt lived in, shaped by silence rather than speeches. Audiences sensed authenticity. While he was never the loudest star on set, directors recognized his ability to convey weight with minimal effort, slowly positioning him as a dependable force in serious cinema, becoming an international anti-hero. While American critics sometimes struggled to categorize him, European audiences embraced Bronson wholeheartedly. Films like Rider on the Rain and Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West elevated him into international stardom, particularly in France and Italy. European cinema valued stillness and psychological tension, qualities Bronson embodied naturally. The French press affectionately dubbed him Le Monstre Sacré, a term reserved for performers larger than life. By the 1970s, Bronson had fully stepped into leading roles, culminating in Death Wish, which captured public anxiety over crime and justice. The film made him the defining vigilante figure of the era and spawned multiple sequels. Bronson's appeal lay in his restraint. He didn't glorify violence, he endured it. His anti-heroes weren't flashy but resolute, reflecting a worldview shaped by hardship, discipline, and personal codes rather than spectacle. A private man in public relationships. Despite his on-screen toughness, Bronson's personal life revealed loyalty and emotional depth. His first marriage to Harriet Tendler began long before fame, when both were struggling actors. Harriet supported the household financially, while Bronson pursued acting, believing in his potential during years when success seemed distant. They raised 2 children together, and her sacrifices played a crucial role in his eventual rise. As Bronson's career accelerated, the demands of fame placed strain on the marriage, leading to divorce in 1965. His second marriage to Jill Ireland became the defining partnership of his life. Together they blended families, raised children on film sets, and prioritized unity over celebrity. When Jill was diagnosed with cancer, Bronson became her fiercest protector, stepping away from work to support her. Her death devastated him, revealing that behind the granite exterior lived a man capable of profound devotion and grief. A clash of temperaments on set. Among Hollywood's tough guy actors, Bronson stood apart for his seriousness and inward focus. This temperament sometimes clashed with colleagues whose styles differed sharply from his own. One of the most discussed tensions involved fellow actor James Coburn, with whom Bronson worked on The Magnificent Seven. While both men were respected performers, their approaches to acting and life diverged significantly. Bronson valued discipline, privacy, and emotional economy, while Coburn was known for ease, humor, and philosophical detachment. On set, these differences created friction. Crew members later recalled a subtle rivalry shaped less by competition and more by worldview. Bronson reportedly viewed excessive charm as distraction, while Coburn thrived on spontaneity and connection. No public confrontations occurred, but the tension lingered quietly. It was a meeting of two strong identities, neither wrong, simply incompatible in temperament and philosophy. Rivalry without reconciliation. As both men rose in prominence during the 1970s, comparisons became unavoidable. Coburn received praise for versatility and wit, while Bronson was increasingly labeled as brutal or minimalistic by critics. These contrasts reportedly frustrated Bronson, who believed understatement was strength, not limitation. Industry insiders suggested that Bronson preferred distance rather than confrontation, choosing silence over public disagreement. After The Magnificent Seven, the two never worked together again, not by accident, but by mutual avoidance. Bronson, by then powerful enough to influence casting decisions, simply declined opportunities that might reunite them. Coburn, more relaxed about the matter, later described Bronson as intense and solitary, avoiding hostility while acknowledging difference. What emerged was not open animosity, but a lasting divide rooted in identity. Their separation symbolized how Hollywood could amplify personality clashes into legends, even when the conflict remained largely unspoken. Late career and quiet withdrawal. In his later years, Bronson transitioned into smaller projects, many produced by Canon Films, maintaining steady work even as trends shifted. Though critics dismissed some late films, audiences remained loyal, drawn to his unwavering screen presence. Eventually, Bronson stepped away from acting, choosing privacy over continued exposure. Health challenges began to surface, and he retreated from public appearances, spending time in Vermont and California with family. Unlike many stars, he showed no interest in nostalgia tours or self-promotion. His final role in Family of Cops 3 marked a subdued farewell, fitting for a man who never sought spectacle. Bronson valued dignity above legacy management, letting his body of work speak quietly for itself. In an industry driven by constant visibility, his withdrawal felt deliberate, even principled, reinforcing the idea that his identity had never depended solely on fame. The final years in passing, Charles Bronson passed away in 2003 at age 81 after a period of declining health. His death was attributed to respiratory failure caused by metastatic lung cancer, with contributing conditions including chronic lung and heart disease. A longtime smoker, Bronson faced illnesses common to his generation, confronting them privately and without public commentary. He spent his final years away from Hollywood's glare, cared for by loved ones and grounded in routine. After his passing, he was laid to rest in West Windsor, Vermont, a place he cherished for its quiet and distance from celebrity culture. The setting reflected the man himself, modest, restrained, and far removed from spectacle. Tributes emphasized his influence on action cinema, his international appeal, and his unwavering authenticity. Bronson left behind no scandals, only stories shaped by strength, discipline, and survival, earned the hard way. Legacy of a reluctant icon. Charles Bronson's legacy endures not because he chased admiration, but because he embodied something audiences recognized as real. His life was shaped by hardship, discipline, loyalty, and restraint. The tensions he experienced with peers like James Coburn reflected deeper differences in philosophy rather than personal malice. Bronson believed in earned respect, silence over performance, and authenticity over charm. These values defined both his career and his conflicts. In an industry built on image, he remained steadfastly himself, refusing to soften or explain his identity. Today, his films continue to resonate, especially with viewers drawn to characters forged by experience rather than illusion. Bronson wasn't a man of many words, but his presence spoke volumes. His story reminds us that greatness doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it stands quietly, unyielding, long after the noise fades.